So welcome everyone. I'm Meredith Rosenberg. I'm co-founder of New Advisory Partners, which is an executive search firm. I'm joined today by Jenny Lay-Flurrie, Microsoft's Chief Accessibility Officer. So thank you all for joining us for our fireside chat. We just finished an invigorating panel upstairs where we spoke very specifically about inclusivity in organizations, the disability community. You and I both have a disability. You hearing me and my vision. And so I'm just really delighted to have this conversation. I think this is the first of its kind at ASU+GSV, where we haven't necessarily spoken very specifically about disability and technology. So thank you.
Well, I like to be a game changer. Let's bring more disability to the stage. I think it's a great thing.
As I said to you before, this is the first of many. So thank you for committing to next year.
No, I'm deaf. I didn't hear that.
So we spoke upstairs about broader K-12 and education, and specifically workforce and employment. I'd love to hear more about what Microsoft is doing, and very specifically, you've been at that company for many years now.
Yep.
How have you seen their dedication to accessibility, and what have they invested from a resource perspective into building that into the culture, into the products, into the technology?
So maybe just a little bit of, hi, I'm sorry, I feel like there's people here. It's so good to see you. So my journey at Microsoft, I started 2005. And when I joined Microsoft, there were actually 6 different employee disability groups. And so think about that as employees with disabilities coalescing. So there was the huddle community, which is deaf people, VIP community, so visually impaired persons. They love being called VIPs.
I like being called a VIP.
And there were 6 at the time. And I joined the deaf community. I am deceptively deaf. You may not know it. By looking at me or hearing me, I just sound gorgeous. But I cannot hear you. And over time, you know, we acquire more disabilities. So I've got a leg that doesn't work. And I'm sure in 10 years, there'll be more. But I joined the deaf community and basically formed the Disability Employee Resource Group. And that was, I would say, one big moment for the company. But one piece in a much longer journey. So accessibility started with Bill Gates back in the 90s. And then we started building an ERG. That community now has 23 different parts to it across the 200,000 plus Microsofties. So it's huge. And I think the reason that it's grown is primarily because of how we view disability. We have a mission that is kind of gorgeous. It's empower every person, every organization to achieve more, which of course means including disability, right? Depending on the stats you look at, 15% of the world's population, likely a lot more than that. The latest numbers came during 2020 and there was other things going on that year. It's huge. And so we've been leaning consciously into that disability community over the years and adding support constructs, empowering employees to bring themselves to work, all of themselves, to use those skills to create better products. And so that's helped us. So yeah, I came into this role in 2016. And my job is to build inclusive products, inclusive services, buildings. I have 6,000 products that I have to look after, 330 buildings, and we're at 9% of our US population has positively said they have disabilities, probably more, candidly. Yeah. And we have a huge framework of people that help to make that happen, but it starts with culture. It starts with culture.
Yeah, so I mentioned to you the name of my firm, so I co-founded that firm a year ago, and 2 of my other co-founders are in the audience, and so we have the ability to build something from the ground up and create the culture that we really want. And that culture is inclusive in everything from the technologies that we use that enable us to do our jobs better, that help our clients and others that we work with, how we hire, really trying to think of what is diverse talent, not just in ability or disability, but also in thought and geography and backgrounds, ethnicity, yep. But being extremely deliberate in how we are being inclusive. And I have that luxury, again, as the co-founder to do that, but there's so many other companies that are now thinking of it as an afterthought. What's your advice to them so they can really be focused more on inclusivity? Because I can tell you that companies and organizations that are inclusive, they're able to attract the best talent and retain the top talent, which you need if you are going to grow and stay competitive. So what would your advice be?
Oh, it's such a great question. And I love that you're building it in. I think that's such the magical thing to do. Well, I think the first thing is, I think we got to think of our kids in this way too. Disability is part of the human condition. Most actually acquire disability. So only 5% of kids are born with a disability. Most acquire it through accident, illness, through any number of different factors. But it's part of being human. And so the first thing I would say is you've got to see this as a talent pool. You've got to see when a kid comes to you and says, hey, I can't hear that, I can't see that. It's like, okay, how can I help you to deliver on your magic, on your strength? And I think start the unwiring that we have to do as a society of seeing disability as less than. I am not less than because my ears don't work. I may be less than because I picked the wrong football team, or I don't understand which I don't understand American football. You know, that makes me less than some, right, in some people's eyes. It ain't because I'm deaf, or I have a leg that don't work. That's just part of being human. So we got to see it as talent. And then I do think we got to build it into how we do things. I'm walking around this event and I'm itchy. I really want to add captioning to everything. I'm itchy. I see all these videos on the screen. I'm like, I know it's 2 buttons, people, and I can add captioning and get that on the screen so everyone can walk around and see what people are saying and not have to do this. I'm seeing people like moving their ears to the sound. There's things that we can do to just make all of these documents just instantly accessible to anyone who's low vision, or in simple, plain English language, which helps people whose English is a second language. And so, yeah, it's so much easier to do that as you design, whether it's an event, a piece of code, whether it's a document, a PowerPoint presentation. You know, it is easy to do now, and technology is enabling that. And, you know, it's that word that I know you love. I've heard it a couple of times today. Yeah. But AI is kind of a big deal right now for accessibility.
I hadn't heard about it. Is it a big deal? Yes. Tell us.
You don't. So AI means artificial. She made us not talk about AI in the last panel, folks. And we nearly died on the vine. For a hot minute there. No, AI is really empowering, I think. If you just look at what's happened in the last 6 to 7 years, it's changing the future. One of my first jobs was working at a newspaper called the Daily Mirror. Has anyone heard of the Daily Mirror? It's a very high class newspaper in the UK. Now I got you giggling. Piers Morgan was the editor back then. And I was on the IT help desk, and they told me that there would be captioning on the phone. This is 25 odd years ago. And they would give me a phone that had automated captions on there. And I was like, that's great. Did it ever happen? No. But it's happening now. Yeah. So I now have an AI-powered captioned phone when I need it. Wow. I can call and make doctor appointments. I can answer, and it just auto captions for me because of AI. And I do think that that's the tip of the iceberg in terms of where things are going.
So is the technology finally catching up to the promise? So you said you were at the Daily Mirror years ago, and they promised something, couldn't deliver.
Yep.
And so now that this technology is available, are we going to see every company become more inclusive? I mean, I know, and I would like that to happen, but what do you think is actually going to happen?
What do I think is actually going to... So is it beginning to live into the promise? Yes. Does everyone have access to those features yet? No. And more importantly, do people know about what's in their devices? No. Who has actually gone to the accessibility setting in their phone? I don't care if it's a robot, a fruit. Yeah, you have. So who has not? Be honest. I'm not going to shame you much. Okay, a couple. Sorry, I did preface that. I would empower all of you to go and check out the accessibility settings in your phone. I have nightlight permanently set. I use high contrast because it's easier on my eyes. I'm not blind, I'm not low vision. I have closed captioning set clearly for everything. In fact, I can just turn that on. On my Windows machine, that's Windows key U. Auto captions can come up on anything. I can control my mouse with my eyes if I want to. But there's so many settings in there that I think benefit everyone. Whenever my kids come home with a new device from their school, I go through it with them and we turn on every single setting. And it's often things that people don't realize. How many of you know that there is an accessibility checker in Office? 1, 2. You get a brownie award. I have no prizes. Yeah. Right next to spell check, people, you can hit accessibility checker and it will guide you to fix that document, that Excel, whatever it is. So when you when you hit send, it's inclusive of everyone you're sending it to, whether you know that they have a disability or not, right? Most disability is not visible to the eye. So yeah, I think technology's there, but we got to drive awareness to it.
Yeah, and we had talked about before about disability and also neurodivergence as well too, and particularly thinking about the kids that are in school now, they will be entering the workforce, right? So if we are wrapping our arms around them while they're in school in K-12, what happens when they transition, whether it's transition to college or transition to the workforce, and how do we continue that care and keeping, and how do we create a workplace that keeps them happy but also successful and productive, right? And I know you focus a lot on talent and hiring specifically disabled people, which I was very impressed when you talked about the blind coders that you have creating product, because they make the best creators of accessible products. And so I would love to hear a little bit more about that, how you think about talent, particularly in the workplace and hiring.
Yeah, Microsoft is vehemently and actively going after and finding disabled talent to come and work at the company. And we can't get enough of it. And the reason being is that diverse disabled talent has an enormous number of skills. And when you design with those constraints, you actually get better products coming out the other end. So we hire neurodiverse, so autistic, dyslexic, dyspraxia, everything under that umbrella. We hire not through the traditional interview process, by the way, because we found that that was actually shutting doors to that talent pool. Autistic talent doesn't like the general question of, what are you good at? If you ask my 16-year-old autistic kiddo that, she would just say, everything, Mom. She's kind of sassy.
Is that because she's 16, or is that because...
She's my daughter. Yeah, one or the other, both.
I have a 16-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, 16's an age. But instead, it's a virtual Minecraft Academy where we assess the skills over 4 days. 50% who come to that academy get a job offer at the end of the week. And we've been running that for now almost 10 years. And they're getting a job offer, by the way, folks, not at lower benefits, not at lower pay, same bend, same skills. We're just bringing folks through a different pipeline in so we can assess their strengths differently. We were closing doors to that talent pool before. And then those folks have gone on to create some amazing things in products. So has anyone used the hand raise feature? Yeah? In any number, we have it in Microsoft Teams. Yeah. That was done by a neurodiverse engineer. Who's played with captioning and transcripts and things, right? And now you get meeting notes. That was done by a deaf engineer. Some of our blind coders and our blind developers are incredible. There's an app which I encourage you all to check out called Seeing AI. Has anyone heard of it? Seeing it, it's free. It's on Android and Apple phones. It was created by a blind developer called Saqib. He's British, so we love him for many reasons. And it's basically using AI to understand barcodes, to read those menus in dark restaurants, to translate text into speech, to understand the color of your outfit in the morning so you're picking the right thing. All done because he needed it and figured out that lots of others do too. And it's the #1 app for the blind still today. So yeah, we need more disabled talent.
So Jenny, in our last few seconds, if there was one thing you wanted this audience to remember before you come back next year and we keep talking, what would that be?
I would just, one, say thank you for everything that you do every day. My parents were both educators, and this is an enormous big part of my heart. But I would say, two, I want you to play with those accessibility features and tell me what's missing. And I want to come back here and create a list of what you want. And so I can go back to my team and say, this group told us that we're missing this, and this. And trust me, there's nothing we like more than feedback from people that are doing this work every single day.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much. We sadly have run out of time, but thank you again. Thank you all.